So welcome again. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today, Advice from Alumni, Italy edition. My name is Snow White. Yes, that's legit. Yes, it's real. My parents are crazy people. It's even funnier when I tell you I live in Florida. So, you won't forget the Snow White girl from the webinar. But yeah, my name's Snow White and I'm the regional director here at ISA. And today I'm going to be joined by some of our amazing alumni to share more about what you should know before studying abroad in Italy. Also with us today from ISA is Lillian, our program manager for Italy. She's going to be monitoring the chat with us and dropping helpful links along the way and answering any questions in the chat. So if you have any questions throughout this, throw them in the chat. She is our absolute expert on all things Italy. And after you apply, you'll be working directly with her to ensure, smooth sailing through your application process. So definitely start chatting with Lillian in the chat. And before we hear from our alumni, we're going to take a quick look at all that Italy has to offer. So why do we love Italy? Italy's amazing. If you've ever been to Italy, throw that in the chat. We want to hear where you've been and what you've done. But there's a few great reasons to love Italy. First is their beautiful culture. Italian culture traces its roots back to the ancient world and has influenced art, fashion, and food around the world. I know Italians like some of my favorite food. Whether you're visiting a famous site or just walking along the streets, the architecture is amazing. Each city is home to so many museums, many of which are free of charge. So you don't even have to worry about paying an entrance fee or anything like that. As a student, you just get to go on in. There's an incredible sense of family in the Italian culture, and everyone is so incredibly kind and welcoming, and it's so easy to make friends with the locals. And I should have prefaced this in my intro, but I also studied abroad in Italy when I was in undergrad. It's been a few years now, but I got to spend a summer in Florence. So that's why I'm here chatting with you all today. I'm actually speaking from experience, but you'll get to hear soon from our more recent alumni who have been to Italy. So a few other reasons why we love Italy: the art and the fashion. From the birthplace of opera to the fashion capital of the world, Italy takes its art seriously. Florence has David, Rome has the Colosseum, and Milan has Prada. So be sure to dress to impress. The latest fashion trends will be on display all around you. And then the food, incredible. Pasta, pizza, gelato, what's not to love? Italians view meals as a way to bring everyone together, making mealtime sacred. The longer you spend at the table, the better, and the better you'll get to know everyone, and you'll quickly see every city and region has their own traditions for what to eat, how to cook, and when to eat it. So if you love food, you'll absolutely love Italy. And then finally, the sea, the ocean, the nature. You can't talk about Italy without thinking of the Mediterranean Sea. It's embedded in Italian culture in so many ways, from the beautiful beaches to the boundless resources. It's connected to almost everything. And each of our sites is less than 2 hours from the coast. The transit system in Italy is great. It's so easy to jump around on weekend getaways. So when you're in Italy, you have to plan a weekend to the Amalfi Coast or go visit one of the many other cities around the country. All right, so let's talk about the program options that we have in Italy. With 3 cities and so many host universities to choose from, there's really something for everyone. Florence, Milan, and Rome each have a personality all of their own. Florence is going to be home to, I did not study Italian, by the way, when I was in Italy, so I'm not going to try to impress y'all with my Italian, but the Cathedral di Santa Maria del Fiore, the Uffizi Gallery, and the Ponte Vecchio, all of which are beautiful. The cathedral is a great place to just go and hang out, sit outside, have a glass of something with your friends, eat some pizza and some gelato. And then in Milan, you're going to have the Duomo, the Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II. I'm sure if you've ever looked at photos of Milan, you've seen pictures of this place. It's absolutely beautiful, the best place to go. Put on some of your best clothes and go take some photos. And then the Leonardo da Vinci Museum and Da Vinci's The Last Supper. And then finally, the one you probably all know, Rome, home to the Colosseum, the Sistine Chapel, and Vatican City. And with so many partner universities here, no matter what you're hoping to study, we have a number of options to meet your course needs. Plus, some of our student accommodations are the highest quality available. And depending on where you're studying and which location you choose, you can choose to live with either a host family, university housing, or go off campus and live at an apartment. So we'll chat a little bit about our Italy team, but first I'll just introduce you to myself a little bit more. I am our regional director, which means I get to go to all of your universities, or maybe some of your universities, meet you all, go to your study abroad fairs and events, and just get to, introduce you to study abroad with ISA and, help get you started. You'll see Lillian's photo in there on the left. She's the one in the chat. I am not monitoring the chat. I hope y'all are having a great time with Lillian in the chat though. But if you do have any questions, shoot her a message. That's our wonderful Lillian. And our Italy team is just incredibly robust and includes in-country staff members ready to support you from the moment you get off the plane until you're heading back home. They're always happy to lend an ear or share their favorite local spots. Our on-site staff also plan excursions and activities that are included in your program fees, and these are a great way to experience the local culture, get outside the city, and meet other students. So just a few funding facts. We like to put the fun in funding. Bad puns, I know, I'm sorry. But if you're an out-of-state student, keep in mind that going abroad sometimes can be cheaper than staying at your home university. And do you already use financial aid? If so, definitely talk to your financial aid office to see if you can apply it to your program abroad. Finally, if you're on scholarships, you might be able to take your scholarships with you. So definitely chat with your financial aid office and your study abroad office about some of these things, because they can vary per university, but so many of our students are using their scholarships and their financial aid to study abroad with us. And then finally, take a look at your budget. Consider getting a job or saving up beforehand. Think about asking maybe family, friends for funding your trip instead of maybe a physical gift that you might normally get. So there's many different ways that you can fund your study abroad experience. And I highly recommend you chat with me, Lillian, or anyone else on our staff about how to pay for your study abroad experience, because that's what we're here to help you do. All right, so what is next? If you haven't already applied, I strongly encourage you to set up an advising appointment. Our team can help you narrow down the options for the program that fits your needs. And Lillian is in the chat dropping the links if you'd like to book an appointment. Once you've chosen your program, you'll need to apply with us as well as your home university. So be sure to stay in touch with your study abroad office along the way. They're really going to be able to help you through this process as it relates to your home university. So we're going to work with you on all of the ISA stuff and getting you abroad, and they're going to make sure at your study abroad office that you're set with them, that your courses are going to count, your financial aid's going to work out, and walk you through that process to make sure, when you return from your study abroad experience, that you're going to be all set to continue on through your degree plan. And then just keep in mind, once you apply, our program managers are going to be there to help with any questions that you might have. So you're never alone in this process. We always encourage you to reach out with any questions, or, even if you just want to check in and make sure you've done everything right, that's totally fine too. So just let us know where you're at. We're always here for you. All right, so if you're just starting out or you're already enrolled in your program, we always think it's helpful to someone to, I'm getting ahead of myself, to talk to someone who's been there and done it. Like I said, I went to Italy, but it's been a number of years. So I definitely think you should talk to someone who's been there a little bit more recently, who knows the vibe of things now. So we're always happy to connect you with one of today's panelists or someone else from our alumni network to answer your questions. Again, Lillian, keep an eye on the chat. Lillian's dropping links in there. There should be one soon to fill out a form so you can chat with some of our alumni. We can connect you to someone who's been to Italy or any of our other locations. And if you have like a certain identity, or you want to hear from someone maybe a little more similar to you or your major, or who identifies like you, let us know in that form, and then we can go ahead and ask around our very vast alumni network to see if anyone will be able to chat with you. So finally, we're going to get into our Q&A portion. This is going to be my favorite part. So let's meet our alumni who all have firsthand experience with studying abroad in Italy. If you've been holding on to any questions, please, now is your time to toss it in the chat, and we'll go ahead and get started on our alumni Q&A. If you all could just share your name, your host university, and where and when you studied abroad. And I'll start with Anne Mary. Can you go ahead for us first? Put you on the spot first.
Hi, my name's Anne. My home university is New Jersey Institute of Technology. So I'm based in the US, New Jersey, and I studied abroad last summer. I spent the summer in Italy. I can't pronounce the university I stayed at, but it was NABA. It was a design school because I am a digital design major. So I got to spend the summer learning about design in Italy, which is awesome.
And what city were you in? Did you already say that?
Oh, yeah, I was in Milan, but I got to travel all around Italy.
Perfect. Thank you. Noah, do you want to jump in? Can you tell us your name, your home university, and where and when you went abroad?
Yes, I'm Noah Eklund. I studied in Florence, Italy past summer. So I was there for 2 months and I studied at Florence University of the Arts. And I'm here at Georgia College and State University. I'm a business management major with a minor in logistics.
Awesome. Juliana?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So my host university is Arizona State University, but I'm originally from the Midwest, Chicago area. And I was in Florence last spring. So I was there for almost a full 4 months. And I also attended the Florence University of the Arts. Totally loved it. So I'm excited to answer any of your guys' questions, and feel free to reach out.
Awesome. And Brady, last but not least.
Yeah, so I'm Brady. I go to the University of Arkansas, and I studied in Rome last spring, and I am an international business major. And the school was American University of Rome.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's start with an easy one here. Why did you choose your particular city in Italy? Brady, let's start with you. Why Rome?
So my school has a campus in Rome, but they don't have all the classes I wanted, but I didn't know that before applying. So I kind of built up going to Rome and going to Italy in my head. So then I just found another program.
Gotcha. You had your heart set on it from the beginning, huh?
Yeah.
All right, Juliana, what drew you to Florence?
So luckily, prior to my program, I have traveled a lot around Italy, and Florence really stuck out to me just because it's a smaller scale city. Everything's very walkable. And it has all the charm of an Italian city. You have the food, the culture. And then I just really loved that, I was set up in an apartment right in the city. Everything was very walkable. So I knew it was the perfect choice.
Awesome. Noah, same to you. Why'd you choose Florence?
Yeah, bouncing off of Juliana there, I really appreciated the essence of what Florence gave me and a sense of the city and also the sense of the people. I wanted to be more centralized within the country itself to be able to travel and also to be able to see the people there and stay in a homestay in an apartment. So just having the ability to see the art there, the culture, understanding what it looks like to be able to travel if I could within that area and with outside the country as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. And Anne Mary, why did you choose Milan?
So I wasn't sure where I wanted to study abroad. I knew from my freshman year, I wanted to study abroad for sure. I didn't know where I wanted to go. And I remember ISA was tabling at my school. So I started looking into the different programs, and immediately the one that drew me the most was Milan, because the program was an art and design one, and I'm a designer. So that was awesome. And so the more I started looking into Italy, the more excited I got. And just Milan had everything. It had the art, it had the design, and it was easily accessible to all the other cities in Italy. So it was just the perfect choice for me.
Perfect. Like Brady, it was almost calling to you. I love it.
Yeah.
So even after you decide where you want to go, studying abroad can be a little bit daunting. We all know this. Anne Mary, what was your biggest concern leading up to your program? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I have never traveled alone before studying abroad. So that was very nerve-wracking. And so I'm pretty sure I gave Lillian 20 calls the month before leading up to it.
Shout out to Lillian in the chat.
Shout out to Lillian. I called her so many times because I was so worried about is the application going through, and my scholarships and all this, everything basically was just freaking me out. But yeah, thankfully it all went super well. I was able to go and have an amazing time. I think one of the things that helped me, like the anxiety leading up to it, was just one of my favorite things to do before was just researching and looking at like all the fun and cool stuff I wanted to go and see, because that was like a way for me to prepare, but also it was like a fun preparation. It got me more excited than nervous. So that helped a lot.
Good, good. Noah, what about you? What were some of your big concerns leading up to your program?
Sure. One of the biggest, I would say, was the alone aspect. Same with me. I mean, I'd gone on mission trips prior, I've gone out of the country prior, but I was with family or I was with ministry groups. But this was the first time where I actually got on a plane by myself or landed and stayed with a homestay family that I'd never met before. So being able to venture out into a culture that I hadn't seen before, being able to adapt to it, learning that I don't need to be scared of it, but that I can approach it with a willing heart and an open mind. So I didn't want to fear what I was going to embrace, but more or less kind of appreciate the differences that I was going to see.
That's so awesome. I'm so proud of you guys. So moving on a little bit, we know that FOMO is definitely real. I get FOMO all the time, even though I love just hanging out at home and being by myself. But it does work both ways too. So Juliana, can you give us any advice that you have for students that are going on the, or that might be a little bit on the fence about going abroad?
Yeah, so I would say I can totally relate to that. I actually went as a sophomore, which I think is a little bit of a unpopular decision. A lot of people go their junior year. So that was on my mind. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to be missing out on things. I'm super involved in campus. So I was, it felt weird leaving some of my organizations and my friends. But I think I really came to learn that that's one semester out of your 4 years of college, and you're going to look back and like see the most growth in that one semester. So I think it's something where you need to trust the process, and also like, your friends are going to be happy for you that you're there. And like, your genuine friends are also going to be, you're going to pick up where you left off when you get back. And I think it's really, of course, with the time change and it's harder to stay in touch, but also, you're creating memories that like, you're never going to have the chance to do when down the road. So I think it's such a leap of faith that you have to take, but it's so, so worth it.
Absolutely. For those of you taking notes, trust the process, and your real friends, they're totally going to support you throughout this whole process. They're going to be excited for you. And now we're going to talk about making friends anyways. So we do hear this concern from students every year about making friends abroad. So Juliana, can you talk about the ISA orientation and the excursions? How did that help you make friends while you went abroad? And do you still talk to any of them?
Yes. So no, yeah, I love that question because actually I was so lucky on my plane ride. I actually met one of my best friends to date. She goes to University of Kentucky. So I think like, you meet so many people right off the bat. So through orientation, you have that your first 2 days, and everyone is so, everyone's in the same mindset of wanting to make friends and constantly, go get food, go explore the city. So right off the bat, like I think that first week is really important to get out there and meet people. And then of course, ISA made it so much easier by having, I remember the first 2 weeks they offered like walks up to the piazza and to viewpoints and food testing tours, really fun activities where you could go meet people from your program. And then I also would say, I think homestay and apartment is both great options. I was actually luckily housed with two of, I didn't know them prior, but they go to ASU and now they're some of my best friends here as well. So I really lucked out in that aspect. And then I say with the excursions, I was actually able to go to Rome for a weekend with my whole ISA program, which was so much fun. Met a ton of more people through that as well. And they had another day trip to Pisa as well. So I think that is something that a lot of people have on their mind is like, am I going to meet people in that lonely aspect? But honestly, like, I almost wish I had more time to meet more people. Like I felt like I was constantly, meeting people that I wanted to spend more time with.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Brady, I haven't forgotten about you. Tell us, how did you make friends abroad? What, do you still talk to anyone from abroad? Tell me a little bit about your trip.
Yeah, so similar to what Juliana was saying, it's very easy because like you have the ride home from the airport with all the ISA people, so you meet them there. And then in my case, had like 5 other roommates, and everyone kind of lived in the same apartment building. So you kind of knew each other through that. And then the first couple of days, there were the same like walking tours where you just gotta like was mainly just like talk to the other people in the group while seeing all the cool things. And then the excursions were like, we went to Florence and then Naples, and then those are just like really good trips because you didn't have to like really plan anything. You just gotta like travel with like these like people that you had met, because like they were mainly your same friends, and then you just gotta like do and like mix with the other people in like the bigger group. So those are like always fun weekends, and I definitely am still in contact with some of those people from the trip, and I know some of them we've all met up at different times, like not all together, but like two people have met up, and so it's definitely like lifelong friend kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So what I'm hearing is as soon as you're on the plane, get ready to start making friends. As soon as you get off the plane and you're traveling to your your first destination, your home, stay wherever you're going, be ready to make friends. And just say yes to all of the ISA trips, excursions, adventures, activities, and you'll make friends. That sound right? Awesome. So Anne Mary, can you tell us about some of the places that you went and how you made friends while you did that?
Sure. So I was super fortunate. I remember leading up to going to Milan, I was like searching up how far is Rome, how far is Florence, because I wanted to go everywhere there was art, essentially.
Of
And I
course.
remember seeing like 3 hours and stuff. And I was like, okay, if I can't go anywhere else, I hope I go to Rome. I was pleasantly surprised. I managed to go to Rome, Pisa, Florence, Verona, Como, and Venice. Venice was probably one of my favorites. Venice is definitely up there. And Switzerland.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was very fortunate in that. And I think honestly, part of it was definitely like everywhere I'd go, I'd find people to talk to and make friends. But I also really appreciated the time that I was just traveling on my own, because like I said, I was super nervous before going. So to like be able to just like go to Venice by myself and go on a gondola by myself, it was like awesome.
Did you
Like,
ever
it was
imagine
just
you would be doing that in your life?
exactly.
yourself?
It was pretty funny because the two other people were a couple in it, and I just asked them to take photos of me. But it was great.
I love it. Third
No,
wheeling.
it was awesome. And I did find people to travel around too. I think the biggest thing is like it was mentioned, everyone is just as scared as you are, especially you're in a foreign country, you're alone, don't speak the language, anything like that. So I think just always being willing to try new things and just invite the people along with you. Everyone's kind of waiting for someone else to initiate something. So just be the initiator, even if you're an introvert, like just you got to step out of your comfort zone. That's what study abroad's all about.
That's great advice. Yeah, everyone wants to make a friend. So be the one trying to make friends with other people, so then they'll have friends. That's great. All right. Noah. So we've been talking about traveling is a great way to make friends, but your experiences while traveling were a little bit different. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah. Along with Anne Murray, I had a very similar experience with traveling alone, especially with certain occasions in where I would go to Nice, France, or like several different cities within Switzerland, or a little bit of South Germany, going to the south of Italy, north of Italy, Venice, Sorrento, Naples, Milan, Rome, but going to those different cities and exploring them, solo traveling was kind of nice in a way, because I've also got to do excursions, which I did that with a bunch of people. So I got to make friends on those trips, and then I got to learn from those people on what trips they loved. So then I took those opportunities and I was able to go and just explore. So I paraglided through the Swiss Alps. I drove a Ferrari in Maranello, a home quarter, of Ferrari. I was able to go to the Monaco Casino in Monte Carlo. Just different types of stuff that I was able to do that I was really thankful for, that I could just experience those things while I was abroad.
That's so cool. Noah, I want your itinerary. Okay, so moving on to a little more serious of a topic, we do have to talk about studying and studying abroad. So let's chat about academics for a second. Campus life and coursework are going to look a little bit different abroad than what you're used to here in the States. So Noah, you studied at Florence University of the Arts, which is a rather hands-on experience. Can you give us a little bit of what that was like in comparison to your home university?
Sure. I took 3 classes there over the span of 2 months. First class was entrepreneurial marketing. So I had different people come in to give guest lectures. So CEOs of Gatorade or a yachting club executive or different racing company executives. They would just come in and talk with us. We would create a product and establish it and present it. That was really nice. The next class I had cultural introduction to Italy. We toured the city. We toured around Florence. We took excursions to different palaces. Learned a lot of Italian in that class, but I still can't speak it. And then the last class was front of the house management, which in that class I really appreciated the hands-on aspect, which I was able to work in a fine dining restaurant and then also in a bistro. So I learned the Italian style of management within restaurants and learned how to, be in a restaurant business for Italians. So it was quite the different experience, but especially being in Florence compared to being in Milledgeville, Georgia, middle of nowhere. I loved Florence. I loved the people, the scenery. It was very sweet. It was a kind area. So I really appreciated that. But apart from differences within the US and international, most everyone speaks English, so they can really help you out in that aspect. So
do you think you could open an Italian restaurant in Milledgeville that would just blow everyone away?
it's funny you say that. One of our projects in that last class, we had to create our own restaurant, and we made it really, really dumb per se, but it would never work. It was hibachi for fish. It just wouldn't work. But yeah, no,
Okay.
I doubt it. Yeah.
That's funny. I love it. Hibachi for fish, like opposite of sushi. Anyways, moving on. Brady, what was your experience like at the American University of Rome? Were your classes in Rome similar to the ones at your home university? What was the vibe? How did that go? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I had one class that was pretty similar to like my classes here, where it was just like a lecture kind of like introduction class. But all my other ones were very like, two of them were like project based. So the whole semester you basically like worked on a project, and one was a group and one wasn't. So it was like good to like mix with like, because the American University isn't just like study abroad students. There's also like Italians and like Germans and just like other like European nations. So it was good for the group projects to be in like, to meet like and work with people from different like cultures and stuff. And then I had one negotiation class where the teacher, he like lived in Milan, I think, and then he would have to like take the train down for my like 2 classes a week. And he was very like Italian, where he would like be like late most of the time and then just like come in and like nonchalantly like teach the class. But then when it came time for like our like negotiations, he was very like serious, like strict on like how you do the things. And then that was also where we were mixing with like the different cultures. So like there was like a lot of Americans and then there were like some Germans, and he would like mix the groups so that you wouldn't have to like all be like on the American ideal of like sitting down for a meeting or the German one. He wanted to like mix to make sure like you weren't like just looking at it from your point of view, but like rather like everyone's point of view, or like a more international point of view.
That's so interesting. I never considered what negotiating or like being in business would be like with people from other cultures. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did I cut you off? Did you want to say anything else about your courses?
No, that was all.
Perfect. Okay. So hopefully everyone in the audience has already started their applications. They're working with Lillian. Everyone is good to go. But if you're not, totally fine. If you have yet to apply, this one's for you. So Anne-Mary, how far in advance did you apply for your program, and like what advice would you give to students right now?
So my story is a little interesting because technically I would say it was 3 years in advance because of COVID.
Yikes.
So my freshman year, I was so sure I wanted to study abroad the minute I got into college. So my first chance, like my first semester freshman year, I was already looking into it, and I had found the program in Milan, and I was like really pumped about it. And I had started the application then. I wasn't super sure I was going to go, but I was just like, hey, like, I'd rather start the application and then figure it out as I go, instead of realizing, oh, I wanted to do this and it was just way too late for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I also lucked out because I remember ISA, I got a phone call about how there was, they were waiving the application fee for Valentine's Day that year. So I looked out. So I was like, this is a sign. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start the application. COVID hit, had to defer. And then COVID hit again. And then I had to defer again. So by the time I reached my junior year, which is the summer I studied abroad, junior going into my senior year, I was mostly done with my application because I had a lot of time to work on it.
That's fair.
Yeah, but my biggest advice is just, if any part of you thinks that you might want to, I would say just start the application. Definitely better safe than sorry. And as you're doing the application, you're going to learn a lot more about the process. That'll inform your decision of whether or not you want to go study abroad at all, or if it's Italy, or if it's somewhere else, or whatever program you're choosing. So definitely, I would just say start, especially if you're scared, because if you're scared, you're going to find a million reasons not to do it. So just start and then figure it out from there.
Great advice. Thank you. And yeah, if you have questions during your application process, we need you to apply. We need to know who you are so that we can help you. We want to help you, but we need to know that you want to go. So please reach out or start your application. Luckily, Anne Mary had plenty of time. But Juliana, I hear you had a little bit less time. What would you have, or what advice do you have, or what would you tell any procrastinators who are listening right now?
Yeah, so my situation was a little different. I always thought like I wanted to go my junior year. But once it came to my attention that I could actually squeeze it in my sophomore year, spring semester, I was like, why not go sooner? But this really wasn't a decision I made until September, and I think the applications were due October 15th. So I would say, like if you're on the fence about it, yes, just apply, but also like you do have that freedom to like, kind of meet with your advisor, like get ahead of it because you'll be able to schedule it out better. Actually kind of a unique thing. I went my sophomore year because I'm actually headed abroad again in like 3 weeks. So yeah, I'm headed to Singapore. So I have been able to kind of squeeze in both of my schedule. I didn't think it was going to be possible, but with iCourses and the help of ISA and programs like that, I really have been able to make the most out of my college experience. So
awesome. I'm so excited for you. For those of you who have already started your application, or those of you who have some questions about what this process looks like, you're going to have a few forms, documents, things like that. Everything will be in your ISA portal. But Juliana, could you also tell us a little bit about the visa process applying for Italy, and maybe just a little bit about the support as well for Singapore? Why not?
yeah, for sure. So for leading up to Florence, I think all of my application stuff were due November 1st. And I would say my number one piece of advice is to reach out to your coordinator at your university, because really getting that communication, asking as many questions as you can, because when you get the packet of applying for the visa, especially if you're going to go for 4 months and have to go into more depth with the visa, it is a lot of work, it seems like in the beginning, but once you start checking things off the list, and I know as an out-of-state student, it was even hard for me to, worry about where to go to like print things, get a notary, stuff where, I didn't really have like my parents or my my house to kind of lean on for that. So I would definitely say ask as many questions as you can, because they will be with you every step of the way. They'll also release a list of other students from your university that are also studying abroad. So I remember connecting with them right away, and we actually went to go get like our passport pictures like taken together, which was really fun. And so for my Singapore program, I'm actually only going to be there for 6 weeks, so I do not need a visa. So it looks a little bit different. It's a little bit easier that way. But I'm assuming for the summer as well, it might not be as an intensive process.
Yeah, typically under 90 days, it's a much easier process. But again, always reach out, ask your program managers kind of during your application process, and they'll walk you through what that'll look like. So moving on a little bit, scholarships. I'm sure everyone wants to know a little bit about that. So they're not going to be required, but we definitely encourage you to apply for scholarships throughout the application process. So Brady, can you tell us a little bit about your scholarship application experience?
Yeah, the scholarships, I went all through my school because they had a lot. And especially in the business school, they have a lot of scholarships available. And it was mainly just like a teacher recommendation, and then you had to write like 2 essays on like why you wanted to go, and then like how it would like further your career. And after I ended up getting the scholarship that I applied for, and it ended up being like cheaper than my semesters usually like here are. So I was able to spend more money abroad since I had saved the money in the scholarship like process.
Awesome. All right, we love scholarships. Those of you looking to study abroad this summer, scholarship deadlines are coming up next month, so definitely pay attention to that. All right, so fast forward through our application process a little bit. It's 2 weeks before you leave, paperwork's done, we got our visas, we got our passports. Noah, what last minute preparations did you make? How many last minute trips to Target were there? Tell us, 2 weeks out, what's it look like?
2 weeks out. It was too stressed to be able to remember. No, I'm kidding. It wasn't that bad because I would say ISA's website, the resources provided were innumerable. I was able to look at those and go through the packing list to look at certain country specifications. I really didn't have to worry about too much, as there was also places there that I could buy stuff. I think necessities were just the right charging block. You're going to a European country or a South American area, you know, it could be different. I would say otherwise, the right weather, clothing, climate, you know, so making sure that you have the right types of clothes for where you're going. But also don't overpack, because I think I fell into that fallacy too. I definitely had too much clothes. So you don't have to bring that much, and you can buy some there. You can be a local and, you know, hang out with them and get some advice from some of the locals about what's in style, what's in fashion. So I definitely didn't stress too hard about that, other than just trying to look the part, bring the necessities, bring a good book or two. So yeah, I didn't try to stress too hard about that.
Awesome. And Mary, oh, excuse me, I don't know what that was. And Mary, what about you? What last minute preparations did you have to make before you went abroad?
So I had a family member had a family member who had a family member in Milan at the time. And so I remember just constantly talking to them, and they're just like, okay, so like, what do I need? What do I bring? And stuff like that. And so I remember, super important, bring a portable charger, because you are in a foreign country, and I would spend like most of my days just out. And a lot of times I remember the first week or so, I got lost a few different times.
Oh, no.
And the public transportation is really simple. And honestly, I was able to just ask people, and they helped me out like almost every time. Like, it's pretty simple, but having a charged phone definitely helps. So I think that's like one of the biggest things. Do not forget a portable charger.
I love it.
I think a lot of the packing too came down to the clothes. I remember being very nervous about like, I don't know, like, what do people wear there, and customs and stuff like that. I remember the advice getting from one of my friends, just dress like yourself, and you're gonna have time to like get clothes from there. If you want to look like a local, like you'll buy clothes. So I think just be yourself, just dress like yourself. Don't worry too much about it, and it'll all go well.
Awesome. So phone chargers, definitely portable chargers, all the things. Could you imagine walking through Italy years ago with just a map, paper map, and not our phones? Like, I don't know. I'd be posted up a gelato shop for the rest of my life. All right. So you both mentioned last minute packing things. So I'll jump over to you, Brady. What's one thing you wish you had brought with you? One thing you wish you'd packed?
I think what Anne-Marie said, the portable charger was definitely a big thing, because especially like if you're like traveling, like long travel days, you have to like get up early, and then you don't know when you can get into like your hotel or whatever, and then you're just using your phone constantly. That was definitely a big thing that I had to buy on one trip, because I just knew I was gonna need it at some point. And then another thing, I guess, would be like good like walking shoes, because I kind of brought like an old pair of like tennis shoes. And I ended up needing because everywhere you go, you're going to be walking a lot. So you want to have like comfortable ones that you like actually want to wear, not just like dirty walking shoes kind of thing.
So I'm hearing Boy Scout vibes, great walking shoes, and always be prepared. All right, Juliana, what's something you brought but you didn't need? Are you a little bit of an overpacker like me?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I would say like one thing, because I love to lounge around, of course, in like my sweatpants and sweatshirts, but like I never went out in public per se in those. So I think I could have done a little bit of a lighter packing on like my leisure wear. Because I did feel like once you're there, like I did kind of want to, you know, when you're out from your apartment, you're kind of out for the day, and I kind of wanted to feel a little bit more put together. And then I would also say, you know, you are going to need, especially if you go in the spring, you are going to need a lot of layers. It's a little bit colder than I thought. But that's also something, since it takes up a bunch of space, you could buy like scarves, or maybe plan on buying like one jacket once you're there. Because I know, like, for me, I brought lots of jackets, which was nice, but also like that took up a good amount of space for sure.
But I mean, if you're into fashion, like I would go to Italy with like an empty bag if I
Yeah.
couldn't just buy all my clothes there. If only I could afford to do so. Well, that's great advice. And I remember personally when I went, there was like a Lush, like 20-30 minute walk from me. There was like an Apple store. So I was able to buy some of like my soaps that I liked when I was at home. This morning when I was packing to come up here, I also almost grabbed my brick for my phone charger. That's like the Italian style, that's whatever kind of voltage they use or whatever. So I remember I picked that up at the Apple store, and I actually almost accidentally used it today. So definitely, if you're, you know, for those of you listening, if you're considering what to bring, what can I buy, definitely reach out, because, you know, there are some stores that you might shop at here in the States that are over there in Italy.
I would note too that like the voltage, like I remember when traveling, I got to the UK with my friends, and the voltage is different. So yeah, making sure you definitely have that like universal charger, because we were all like, oh, we need to go to the store right away. Like,
Okay, so this one's for everyone, so start thinking about it. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your former self before going abroad? So I'll give you like 2 quick seconds to think about that. And Noah, I'm going to put you on the spot first. What advice would you give your former self?
Don't be lazy. And I say that in a good and bad way, because you need rest after a long day of walking, maybe 6 or 7 miles. But at the same time, you're there for a short period of time. Use the time. I found myself sitting around a little too much sometimes, and having the motivation to just get out, go explore, see something new, go with some friends, just do something. That proved beneficial for me, because just sitting around was just like, I'm in Italy. What am I doing? Get out, like, come on. So I would
we
say,
can watch Netflix at home, you know, in
right.
Italy, like we're only here right now. So
Yeah.
go to some of those free museums. Yeah.
Right. A big fallacy of mine was starting the F1 like Netflix series, because F1 was going around, you know, Europe at the time, and I was close to seeing one of the races, and I was just like, oh, I gotta get into it. But, you know, save that for later, you know, go
That's
explore.
so cool.
So
Next time I'm in Milledgeville, we'll talk about F1. All right, Brady, what advice would you give your former self before going abroad?
I would definitely say to not like lean on the like crutch almost that like everyone can speak English, but more like try to like speak Italian, because they definitely appreciate it a lot more. Like there was a coffee shop below my apartment where at the beginning I would just kind of like order in English, but then my roommate who was taking Italian said that the barista was like really like nice and like patient and would like help you like learn. So like I started to like try to like use it there, and then slowly at restaurants and like other places, just because they definitely appreciate you not just like acting like you're an American or speak English, so they should understand you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great advice. Juliana, what about you?
so I would say I definitely had the travel bug once I got there. And I remember like the first weekend, my roommates and I sat down, and like I think every weekend for 6 weeks straight, we went somewhere. So I would say like definitely put in something, like maybe make a weekend in your host city as a little break, because the traveling days can be exhausting, especially when you're doing it on a budget and trying to take like the cheap flights or the early flights and stuff like that. So I would definitely say ahead of time, like make sure that you're also taking time to explore your host city, and kind of being smart about your travel time, because you don't want to be exhausted when you're there, and you don't like, you know, you want to see everything, but also be realistic about it. And I would say anyone who's going to do the Florence program, also look at airports in Bologna and Pisa, because they have a lot cheaper flights than the Florence airport, since it's a little bit smaller.
Awesome. Yeah, I always struggle when I'm planning a trip. Like, do I go to this one place and just spend all my time there and really get immersed there? Or do I, like, now that I'm over there, do I just go to as many places that I can to try to see everything at once? So great advice. Thank you. And Mary, what about you?
It's interesting because the thing I wish I knew, I could only know by going, which is just the fact that that it was like traveling alone is something that I was capable of doing, which was really important for me to find out because the amount of stress I went through leading up to it was insane. So I think just looking back, like I definitely did also catch the travel bug. So I'm definitely going somewhere soon. So I think that the biggest lesson I got was just knowing that like all the obstacles that came my way, like all the times I got lost, like everything that ended up happening, just being in a foreign country, not speaking the language, I was able to figure out, I was able to like get support and like I didn't need to stress as much as I needed to, but we learned.
No, that's awesome. I saw this TikTok recently that was like, I have the figure it out gene. Like, whatever it is that I want to do, like I can figure it out, and it's crazy. Like your own 2 feet can take you so many places. And like my mom, I'm sure all of our moms would be like, you can do anything that you set your mind to, but like, it's crazy. Like you can just go to Venice if you want. And so that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Anne Mary. All right, last question. So for those of you in the chat, last call, throw down your questions for Lillian. All right. So students are always talking about their life-changing moment and life-changing experiences that happen while studying abroad. So would each of you share what was that life-changing moment for you that you'll never forget? And I'll start with you, Jelliana.
Alrighty. That's hard because there are a ton
so
that
many.
like stood out to me the whole semester since I was there for so long. But I would say one of the most special moments was my last night in Florence with all of the girls that kind of became my best friends after our like 4 months of traveling together. We went to our favorite restaurant and then we rode on this merry-go-round in one of the famous piazzas in Florence. And I remember just walking around the Duomo, just reflecting back on all of our favorite memories and just how much, we've grown since, we all first met each other in the end of January. And I would say just like in that moment, it reminded me to, take those leap of faith, take those risks and really, it all sounds like a lot in the beginning, but it's when you look back, it's an experience I'll never forget and one that I, probably won't be able to do, down the road. So, yeah.
Brady, what about you? Can you tell us about one of your life-changing moments while you were abroad?
Yeah, so my friends and I, we got a soccer ball at one point during the semester, and we would go to this park that was probably like a quarter mile from our campus, and we would go after school some days, and then we would just kind of like kick around. And then one time, these Italians asked us if we wanted to play with them, and we just gotta like it was like 3-on-3, and we just gotta play just like with these like Italians, and they were like, I think it was like a dad or maybe a coach and like 2 like younger kids. So it was just kind of fun to like just play with the locals and do what they like to do and just kind of like talk, like kind of communicate, but not really because neither of us really spoke English and Italian. So it was just kind of fun to feel like a local in a way.
That's awesome. It's crazy how sports can just connect you, like kicking a ball around. You don't have to speak a language for that. My boyfriend and I were just talking about that at the World Cup. So wonderful. Yeah. Noah, what about you?
Sure. This is tough just because it was a long experience and choosing one is difficult. But I will say, if I had to, first of all, I got to thank my parents because the financial endeavors that I would be able to do were slim to none if I didn't have parents. So I'm thankful for that in that aspect as well. But being able to go to Switzerland and legit get on top of a mountain, jump off the mountain, and paraglide down through the city of Interlaken, and then later that day being able to hike up that mountain 20 miles or so, meet a couple of Chinese students that were grad students there, and we just had a conversation about American inflation out of nowhere. But I just made friends with them, and it was just a fun time. And being able to be there, seeing creation, seeing the beauty, seeing the absolute just creation itself, I was just very, very stunned. And I loved being there, loved being able to travel and hike and hang out with the locals around the city. So
that's awesome, Noah. And real quick, Noah, did you also stay in a homestay?
I did. I stayed in a homestay in Florence. Yes.
I
And
saw a question pop up in the chat real quick. And before we get to Anne Mary, could you just tell us a little bit about your homestay for a quick second?
sure, yeah. I was a little different. I think Juliana, you said you did too as well. Or somebody else did as well,
I did an
right?
apartment in Florence, but
Okay, never
yeah.
mind then. I was a little interesting because I had a homestay for the first session that I was there, and then I was placed into an apartment the second two.
Hmm.
But the first session when I was with the homestay, I was with one other roommate. It was the mom and a dad with their kids, and they weren't always there, but sometimes, and they were each 30s or something like that. So they would come by and visit. But the mom, she was a renowned chef. I mean, she had a couple restaurants. She cooked Italian meals for us every night. Nothing was the same every single night. The dad didn't speak any English or barely any, so it was kind of fun practicing my Italian with him. She was the translator. There was the dog there. There was a cat there. You did your own laundry. That was a cool experience because there's no dryers, so you kind of hang dry everything. And I'll say, other than that, it's just a great bonding experience because you get a lot of advice from them and they take you places. I remember she drove us to different places in Florence just to show us around and to get us around with the locals and show us where to buy certain things. So I was really appreciative of that, and I stay in contact with her as much as I can.
Oh, that's so awesome. Did your host dog speak Italian? Like his commands were all in Italian, I'm assuming?
They were, yes.
That's so funny. I love it. All right. And so for those of you who are scared you're going to miss your pets, maybe think about a homestay. They might have dogs, cats, who knows? All right, Anne Mary, I'm going to have you wrap us up. Give us your life-changing moment, please.
If it's okay, I'm gonna go with two.
I love it. You're in charge.
So I remember one of the biggest ones was like knowing I was going to Milan. I remember like I mentioned before, my all-time like bucket list item was Rome, going to Colosseum and going to the Sistine Chapel, because the Sistine Chapel has always been like a hardcore obsession because I love Michelangelo. And I remember constantly searching up photos of the Sistine Chapel after I learned about it in like middle school. And I just thought it was the coolest thing on earth. And I remember, so the way the Sistine Chapel is the Vatican Museum, and it's the very last part of the museum. You have to go through the entire museum to get to it. So the anticipation was just building and building and building as I walked to that museum, and just being in that room. Like I wish I could relive that moment. It was just the coolest thing possible to just see like what years of like anticipation and research and like being interested in this one subject like kind of culminated in, was just awesome. And my other part is that I remember I had bought this journal before I went to Italy, because I was like, I really want a journal so I can like journal and write about everything I'm doing. And I remember it was so funny because I was in a random store in my hometown and it had a journal that was like made in Italy. So I was like, this is perfect. I'm going to take it back home. So I had a journal, and in the beginning of my trip, I remember writing on the plane there, and I got so busy while I was in Italy that I didn't write in it as much. Like I wrote in it a few times. And then I remember my entire flight home, I was just cramming and writing everything down. I could remember going through my photos. So I was like, okay, this was this day, this was this day. And I remember I literally, like no exaggeration, finished the last sentence of the last page of that book as I like landed in New York. And it was just the most like full circle moment ever. And it was just so cool. And it's awesome that I get to look back and read all of those entries.
That's amazing. Well, if you ever publish a book about your experience from your notes, I want to read it. That sounds absolutely beautiful, Anne Mary. Oh, all right. So I think that's about it for today. I just want to say a huge shout out. Thank you to our panelists. We really appreciate you all being here, and it's so wonderful to hear about your experiences. For those of you watching, also thank you so much for being here. We're so excited for you to be starting your study abroad journey. Please reach out if you have any questions. I know in the chat we have the link to connect with any of our alumni. Lillian's also running the chat, so shout out to Lillian. Thank you so much for answering questions in the chat. You all will get to know Lillian when you're studying abroad if you go to Italy. So, shoot her an email, ask her any questions. She's our resident expert. And then if you are on your campus and you've got a study abroad fair coming up, make sure to say hey to the ISA rep who's going to be there. Could be me, could be any of my wonderful colleagues. head to your study abroad offices, go chat with them about starting this experience, and then check out the ISA website, studiesabroad.com, or just Google ISA study abroad. Start looking at our Italy programs or any of our programs and start that application so that we can help you through this process. All right. And I think that's about it. So you all have a wonderful day and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thank you all.
Thank you.